So what role does data play in the adult entertainment industry? What role does data play in the adult entertainment industry? Listen, get your mind out the gut. I'm not talking about that type of adult entertainment. I'm talking simply about the restaurants that you may go to as an adult, and they have games that you can play inside of those restaurants, right? When I was a kid, we went to places like Showbiz Pizza. I'm not sure if Showbiz is still around. I think Big. Are you looking for a six-figure job or know someone that's looking for a six-figure job? I teach a very specific tech skill set called Power BI, where there are thousands of jobs listed every day, but a very limited number of individuals that can perform the work. I'm holding a Power BI webinar this Thursday, 7:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. If you'd like to attend, comment webinar, WEBINAR, and I'll send you the access. Top Pizza, and they had like the arcades, Miss Pac-Man and stuff like that. Of course, now I think they still probably have some Miss Pac-Man around, but at the end of the day, I don't know if they still have like Centipede and that kind of stuff. I think they got a whole bunch of other stuff now. But just imagine the games that you can play inside of an adult restaurant, or I think it's an adult restaurant, but a restaurant, such as many of the bowling alleys now have these types of games that you can play as well. But where I'm going with that is, many times you use a card to swipe. You'll use a card. Do I have a card around here? I do not have a card right in my current possession. But typically, the way that you would play the games, you'll get a certain number of dollar or currency placed on a card, and then you'll put the card in the machine, and then you'll play the video game based on how many tokens or how many credits are on the card. Now, back when I was a kid, it was really a token. It was really something that was about big as a quarter. This is not actually a quarter. This is, I think, a Susan B. Anthony dollar. But it was something same size as a quarter, maybe a little bit different in weight. You put it into the machine, and boom. And once you didn't have any more tokens, you called it a wrap. You called your mom. She came and she picked you up. Now they've got the cards, kind of like a little credit card, but that you put that card into the machine, or you'll swipe that card on the machine, and there will be a certain number of credits or a certain number of tokens, whatever you want to call it, that'll be on the machine. Well, question is, how do you keep up with the data, or keep up with the amount of data that's within that card, right? Because a restaurant like that would want to know, how many times would that card swipe? How many times did someone use that card? What machines did they use that card in? Which games did they play when they used that card? Did they use that card actually to buy, I'm not gonna say alcoholic beverages, but to buy sodas or to buy popcorn? Because you can. I mean, some places you can use that same card would be good for beverages, food, swipes, because they'd have a value that's already placed on that card, or a currency value that's placed on that card. Well, at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about data within the entertainment industry. When I say adult entertainment industry, I am not talking about, swinging or some scantily clad young lady swinging around a pole with one leg up in the air with some high heel shoes on, and hair just swinging around the pole, and it's one arm, right? No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm simply talking about the data that is used within an entertainment place, a family-friendly entertainment place, okay? So what we're gonna be looking at today is we're gonna be looking at data from an industry or a company or a location such as that, but the goal is not to dig into the data. That's not what we're here to do. We're not here to dig into the data. What we're here to do is we are simply here to create a Power BI report, right? Because that's what you're here for. You're like, hey, how do I create a Power BI report? And basically we're gonna go from beginning to end. And what we're looking at right here is we're looking at the end product. We're not gonna beat this thing down as to all the different entities of what it takes to build a Power BI report, but we're gonna look at the different visualizations specifically that's on this particular report here. So what I am going to do, we'll get back to this report at the end, because this is the actual final report. But what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at all of the different visualizations that are on this report. We've got here, this is a slicer button. In many cases, when we create a slicer, it would either be a list slicer, a list of something, or a drop down of something, and then we'll make a selection. But here, we actually have buttons that we can select for this particular slicer. So when I select different countries, we see that we get their different statistics or their different data analysis. Now, when I go back to the United States, because the United States is the only one that I've actually built the data out for on this particular report, now we can see basically this is the revenue. All of these visuals are giving telling some type of story when it comes to revenue. In this particular case, when we look at the map visual here, we can see that the color is saturated, and the darker the saturation, the more revenue is generated in that state for this particular organization. The lighter the color, the lighter the blue shade, the smaller the revenue, and then the gray shades simply means that this company is not represented in these particular states. Now, with that said, I am going to go over and I'm going to go to what I'm calling card one. And basically what I did was, so let me, before I do that, here, this is considered to be a slicer visual. This is a card visual. Some people call it a KPI because the KPI is simply a key performance indicator. And basically it's just giving some indicator of what has happened with revenue. So we're looking at total revenue, average check, really not able to see here what that number, what this is actually representing. Matter of fact, let me pull it over so I can see what's on here. The screen is kind of small from where I'm demonstrating from. So that's, we're gonna be looking at total revenue, average check total, count of checks, total swipes, and net growth percentage year over year. So we have total revenue, average of checks per year, the count of checks. And basically the reason why we have count of checks is so that we can count pretty much how many, when I say count of checks, that's the check that comes out at the end of the day. What was the total cost of that meal, right? So when the meal comes out, you get the check. So how many checks did we get, whether it was in the number of checks we received in a year, the number of checks we received in a month, the number of checks we received in a day. That's what count of checks is. Then we have total swipes, which means how many times we had swipes on all of the machines. That means we had 342, here we've got 342 million swipes over a current period of time, and then 0.34% year over year growth. So all of these guys up here are cards. Again, here across the top, even though they look like they're individually created, they're not. This is actually one slicer. So we got a button slicer, we've got cards. This is a column chart. And the way I like to think of a column chart is a column holds up a building. So a column is going to be going straight up and down as opposed to going sideways. If it was going sideways, it would be called a bar, because the way I like to think of a bar is you can stick a glass of water on a bar. You can stick a glass of soda on a bar. So here is a column, and down at the angle to the other corner is a bar. So this is a column chart, this is a bar chart. Then we've got a donut chart. Donut chart is very similar to a pie chart. Many of us created pie charts when we were in, 4th, 5th, 6th grade math. And this is a pie chart. This is a donut chart, not a pie chart, but it's very similar to a pie chart with the exception of, we've got that donut hole that's cut out of the middle. And then of course we have the map, as I was talking about before. And then we have a line chart and we have a table. So we've got a button slice, a slicer button. We've got cards, we've got a column, we've got a donut, we've got a map, we've got a line, we've got a table, and we have a bar. So basically all of the different visuals in this particular report. So what we're going to do is I am going to just show you, even as, fancy as this may or may not look to you, and I'm going to decompress here so we can see exactly how big it is. It may look fancy to you. It may not look fancy to you. It may look complicated to you. It may not look complicated to you, but I am going to explain to you each individual visualization, because each one of these visuals together, is the visualization in the Power BI report. So what I'm going to do, I've already created each one of these, and really I didn't create them. I just created a new page and I deleted the visuals that I did not want to see. So this visualization here, again, is a card visual, and it's showing us the total revenue. It's a card visual and it's showing us the total revenue. If I come back over to the final report, we see that this is the same card visual. And really it should be in the same location because I just deleted the visuals around it. And it's showing here 348.36 million. And you say, well, that's not the same number that was over on the original one. Actually, there's something that was selected here. I don't remember what I selected here, but there's something selected here that's not being selected on just the card visual, which gives us a slightly different number. But trust me, it's the same data. The data that we have that we're using is all coming from right in here in our data view. All of these tables is what we are using for the report. I'm not going to go too deep into the data view. I don't want to complicate this thing more than what you think it already is. So this first visual is a card visual, and the way that the card visual was created was we simply went over to the visualizations pane. If I select this particular visual, and we will see now that the card visual has been selected. If I deselect it, you see that it's not selected in the card visualization. It's over in here, and you'll see when I select the card visual, we get the visualization is highlighted. So basically we took the card visual from over here and we drug it into the report field or the report pane. Then the data that we use for this card visual, let's see here, visualizations, and we have data. So the data, I'm not able to see, let me drag it back over so I can see exactly where this data is coming from. And just want to highlight here, and I want to see data. Okay. Just want to make sure that I'm seeing exactly what the information I'm giving you. And when I come back over to the card visual, now we are going to see that this visualization, total revenue, is what we brought into this particular card visual. And the total revenue is coming from a measure that we created that is right here. And we just took this measure and we drug it into the visual, and boom, that created the visualization. Just as simple as this is the card visual. I just clicked it, and I want to make sure I'm bringing in the right information. I'm going to select here, and then I am going to just drag over to this visual, and it gives us this value. That's just how easy it is to create a card in Power BI. Now, I am going to go to page 2. I'm going to delete this because, well, I'll leave it there. I'm not going to save it. I'm going to go over to card number 2. If I come back over to the final report, and we see that card number 2 is here at 110.65, which is the average number of checks per year. Now I want to see, how did I create this visual? So basically, this is that same visual, and it came out to be that exact same number here. That 110.65 was off like 0.01. Well, it's off of like 0.21. So here we have the card visual that we're using for this particular visualization. And how did I create this card? You say, T, how did you do that? I mean, you know, what's the magic to it? So I'm going to click out, I'm going to come down, and I'm going to add a card visual to the report pane as we did before. And again, let's see, that data is coming from here and sum total. So I am going to just come down and I'm going to check it. That's not the right one. Let's see. It's not the one that was selected. Okay. Check total. So if I come down to check total, it's not adding up. Let's see what's going on here. I'm not able to see that screen. It's too small for me. Sum, check total. Oh, yeah. I know what we did. Let's see. Sometimes it gets a little confusing to me. So let me double check to make sure what I got going on here, so I can explain to you why the 110 is different than the sum. And I see exactly what it was. So here we have the average. This is the average number of checks per year. Here we have the total, which is the sum of all the checks per year. So basically, when we come here, what we want to do is we want to come over to the fields pane and we want to select average. And given now that we have the exact same value. Now, this is not a DAX lecture. This is not a measures lecture. This is just a teaching lesson as to how to create the visualizations in a Power BI report. If I go back over to card number 1 was total revenue to date, or total revenue. So we created another measure and we called it, we just duplicated it. And basically what we have is the total revenue. It came from this measure, which was total revenue measure. Unlike what we selected from on card number 2, in card number 2, we selected a visual, which is the same as the card visual, but rather than creating a measure and pulling from the measure, we actually pulled this data from a table. And when we pulled it from the table, we pulled a column from the table and we just drug it into this report. So same type of visual, just a different way of getting it, just a different way of getting the value. If we come over to card number 3, I'm going to select card number 3. And when I select card number 3, we see that that value is coming from this table and it's coming from this column, right? So if I create a new card, and I'm just going to bring it over so we can compare it. If I bring in a new card, and I believe this was the card we selected. Count of checks per day. So here, this column is saying sum of checks per day because I'm seeing the sigma notation. So sigma and sum is the same. So the count of checks per day. Well, count of checks. Is that gonna be count of checks per day? Let's see. No, count of checks. The count of checks key, which means, I apologize, I don't have my, the screen is pretty small for me, but it's the count of checks key, which means there is a key that is telling us, a key is just simply a number identified by each check, right? So we could have key number 1, it could be a check for $3,000. Key number 2, a check for $25.47. Key number 3, could be for $13.10, right? So basically what we're doing now is we're counting the number of checks, but we're counting the number of checks by the number of keys. So by doing so, that just simply says that we've got 1,000 keys, that means we had 1,000 checks. In this particular case, we have 10,000 keys, so we're gonna say we have 10,000 checks. Okay, so with that, basically with this particular card, we did a count. We did a count of a number, a count of a key. In this particular card, we did an average. We found an average of a number. And then in card number 1, we found the total revenue of a number. In all 3 cases, we just drag and drop. We just drag and drop, we drag and drop. So now we are going to go over to card number 4. And in card number 4, what we are going to do here is we see total, that's total what? Let me bring this over so I can see what total we're talking about. Total swipes. So this is going to be the total swipes of cards, or total swipes on the video games, total swipes of the cards on the video game. So again, that's just a matter of saying we have a little card for the video games. We're going to swipe the video game. We're going to swipe the card on the video game, and that's going to allow us to play the game. And then when all of our swipes are gone, when all of the credits for that video game, where all the credits of that card is gone, then we have no more ability to play the video games with that particular card unless we add more credits to the card. So we're counting swipes. How many swipes were made? So we're saying that there were 396 million swipes that were made, right? And basically, again, it's just a card. It's just a card. So what we are going to do is we are going to select the card. And I just want to use the same table and the same column that the card was used from. So I'm going to highlight here, and I see that we are looking at gameplay, the gameplay table, and we're looking at the swipes column. So I'm going to highlight this card, and I'm going to bring that same value into this card. And again, we are just dragging and dropping. We're just dragging and dropping. So as we drag and drop, we now see that this value is the same as well. So that's just how simple it is to create these cards that are found in the final report. We've created these same 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. We haven't created the year-over-year cards. So I thought we just had 4. Let's see if we got 5. Looks like I did not add card number 5, and that's okay because we know how to find the first 4 cards. So I don't want to go in and create a new page just for that card because that's going to take up more time than what we need right now. But at the end of the day, you see that creating a card is not that difficult. It's just a matter of knowing, which table to use, which column to use, to drag and drop to, or if we create a measure, which measure to use, and dragging that measure and dropping that measure into the card the card visuals. So we created card 1, we've created card 2, we've created card 3, and we have created card 4. Now we are going to create the column. So The column is the same way. The column is the same way. We are just simply dragging and dropping. We're simply dragging and dropping to create the column. Now, if I highlight the column here, I see that we used a table here and do we use another table? And we use the table here. The reason why I know that I use certain tables is because the green check marks tells me where the data is coming from. So this green check mark says, hey, you've got data coming from this table, and you've got data coming from this table. So basically, what I want to do is I want to replicate this column just to show you how to create the column chart. And if I highlight the column chart, you will see that this is the visual that was used because it's highlighting this particular visual here, which is the clustered column chart. If I double click it, if I click out of it, you'll see that it disappears now that there's no visual that is being used. If I highlight it, now I see that this is the clustered column chart. So with the clustered column chart, what I am going to do is I am going to click out, and then I'm going to come over and I'm going to select the clustered column chart as we did for this actual visual here. Then I am going to come to, well, let's look again. These are the visuals. These are the columns and the tables and the columns that were used for this particular visualization. So I'm going to select my column chart here, and I am going to select, I think that was month name, and I'm going to place that on the x-axis. And I believe, I'm not exactly sure which this one is, but that's the column and the table. That's the table and the column that was used to create that clustered column chart. Now, that is the, let's see, the first 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to call it 5, even though we didn't use the fifth card, but we're going to call it 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the first 6 visualizations that we used for this particular report. The second part of this report we will do in a separate video because I don't want to make this video go too extremely long. But we are going to do the second part of the remainder of these visuals in the second part of this report. But what I want to do was just give you some idea of how easy it is to create a Power BI report. It is simply dragging and dropping, dragging data, whether it be measures or whether it be a column from a particular table to a card or some type of visual. In this particular case, we had cards and we had columns. In the next report, in the second part of this video, we will be looking at the donut chart, the map, the line, the table, the bar chart, and the slicer, the button slicer. So with that said, thank you for joining in, and I look forward to seeing you win again.